What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to fully AFK the new Rex Matriarch Osseous. This method should get you anywhere from 30 to maybe up to 34 kills per hour, so it's relatively quick, especially for an AFK method. And if you guys don't want to try out this boss like I don't want to, definitely use this method for yourself. Moving on to the preset for this method, you can see the relics that we are using are going to be Persistent Rage, Conservation of Energy, and Fury of the Small. I will be showing an action bar that works without Conservation of Energy after this, but I personally find the Death Skull method to be significantly faster, especially if you're going to be fully AFKing. So if you're going to be using the Death Skull method, definitely be using Conservation of Energy. Unfortunately, the requirements are kind of high, but it is so much better that I would highly suggest using it. We also are going to want to have Persistent Rage. You definitely need to be building up to 100% adrenaline after every single kill to be making this consistent, so definitely be getting that as well. For the familiars, we can use a Ripper Demon without scrolls or a Calgarian Demon with scrolls. I probably wouldn't use any other familiars. These two are definitely going to be the best. I found them to be relatively consistent in terms of their kills per hour output, so it doesn't really matter which one you use. For the gear setup, you can see we are using 4 pieces of the first Necromancer robe set, and then 1 piece of Death Dealer or Death Warden, depending on how safe you want to be. The Death Warden is a little bit more tanky, obviously, but the Death Dealer will get you a fair amount more kills per hour, maybe even up to 1 to 2 more kills per hour, so it's definitely worth using that if you can. But for the ring slot, I have found the Reaver's Ring to be the best in-slot ring for this method. You can also use something like a Zorgoth's Ring, or you can use the new Occultist Ring if you want, but it's not really that great from what I found, as well as the you could use just like a Luck of the Dwarves too if you want. For the weapons, you can use tier 95s or tier 90s for this. Tier 90s obviously are going to be a little bit slower, but they do definitely work out perfectly fine as well. And I will be showing a method after this that works with tier 90s as well as you know, some pretty low level gear like just Death Dealer or Death Warden or whatever. So yeah, but if you're going to be going for the most optimal kills per hour, try to copy what you see here because I find it works the best. As far as the 4 pieces of the first Necromancer robe is concerned, I found if you have all 5 pieces, occasionally your conjures will bleed into the next kill and kind of screw up the kills. So I found using the 4 pieces is more optimal than using 5, just because of that, that if you get a really fast kill, you can run into problems with that setup. So I would highly suggest just using 1 piece of Death Dealer like you see here. For the cape, we obviously are going to need a Zuck cape for this because we're using the Death Skull ability as our AoE damage. We need to be using a Zuck cape to be getting the most optimal Death Skull casts. Not only the most optimal, but it's really the only way to make this work, so this is absolutely required. Again, I will be showing a method after this using the Scythe that you could probably get away without the Zuck cape. But I do have a video on getting a relatively easy Zuck cape, so definitely go out and get one if you don't have it. As for the amulet, you can see I'm using an amulet of Salamancy. The reason I use this amulet is because it gives you obviously a 3% increased drop rate here, which is pretty significant from what I found. I would definitely use this amulet, you know, over something like a Salve. Although the Salve offers a little bit more DPS, the Salamancy's 3% drop chance increase is probably better than just 5% more damage. I know that it maybe isn't, I don't know, but I would probably just use the Salamancy. It seems to work out perfectly fine. For the book, I would use a Scripture of When. I don't really think any other books are worth it. And then finally for the aura, I'm just using the Penance aura. I would highly suggest using this aura. Something like the Powder of Penance doesn't seem to quite have enough prayer upkeep to make this method reliable, especially with the tier 99 curse. But yeah, I would just use the Penance aura. It definitely works the best from what I've found. And then moving on to the inventory. Inventory is pretty basic. You can see we just have some overloads with some potion reservoirs. The only thing to really note about that is that the potion reservoirs, or I mean the overload selves, are really required if you're using the tier 99 curse, but if you're using the tier 95 damage curse, you can get away with just normal elder overloads. You don't need the selves with that, but with the tier 99 curse, you definitely need the extra prayer from selves, so make sure you're using those. And then we are also using the magic note paper. This is just to note all of the bones. This boss drops a ton of unnoted bones, so definitely be bringing note paper. And then finally, we have a spring cleaner to clean up some salvage, and then just a Excalibur as well as shard to, you know, basically in case you need to heal in between kills or something like that. If your HP is really low at the end of a kill, you do need to use an Excalibur, but I find you don't need to do that too often. But again, it is nice to have. And then the incense sticks are just Lantidime sticks to extend the duration of our overloads, so we don't burn through quite as many of those. But yeah, that is the preset. Moving on to the perks. So for the perks, it is pretty standard which perks we use, but there's a very important note to make, and that is we do not want to be using the impatient perk. The impatient perk, much like the Raziel method, just introduces a little bit too much variability into our setup to make it really work out perfectly. So with this setup, definitely be taking the impatient perk off your gear. And the other perk that's important to note is Absorbative. Absorbative seems to help quite a bit with this method, just to make you a little bit tankier so you can, you know, tank some of those extra hits. I would highly suggest having something like Absorbative and Lucky on your legs, or maybe Absorbative and Scavenging on your legs, just to be getting some free components. But yeah, make sure you do not have Impatient, because it will screw this method up. For the top, we just have Crackling, Relentless, and Biting. I found that with the action bar that I've been using, even if you get a Relentless proc, it doesn't matter too much because of the way the bar is designed. It kind of omits all of the issues that that variability introduces. But yeah, it's pretty much just standard best in slot perks from there. On the weapons, again, standard best in slot perks on our weapons, and then we just have, again, Crackling, Relentless, and then Biting for Undead Slayer on the top. And make sure you're using Undead Slayer. That 7% increased damage is definitely worth using, obviously. It's super, super good, and it's pretty much free, so you might as well get that too. Alright guys, so before we start up this method, there are a few important things to note. The first thing is going to be boosting your HP. Although this isn't required, if you're not using the Death Warden legs, I would highly suggest coming here to Encronia or using the Ogre Flask if you have those, and using the Thermal Bath treatment to boost your HP by 3%, and then also coming here to War's Retreat and boosting your HP at the bonfire. I find this helps out quite a bit with survivability, just to be, you know, increasing your HP so you can get more healing and have a little bit more of a buffer area between, you know, having to Excalibur after a kill and not, basically, is what it's for. But basically, once you do that, you just come over here to the Rex Matriarch Lair, make sure you're turning on your Penance Aura, turning on your Scripture of When, using your Overload, and then we also just use Soul Split as well as your damage boosting curse, and then we just join up in the instance. And all we do here is we just use the teleporter right here in the corner, and then I'll show you where to stand. Where you stand is not extremely important, but the best way I like to do this is you can see there is this skeleton on the floor over here. You can bladed dive right to the south of the skeleton, like you can see, like I'm right on its little foot there. And we basically just bladed dive there when we start this instance, and then Osseous will pull us in, and that's where we stand throughout the rest of the kills. But this here is what a standard kill should look like. You can see we just start out by conjuring our guys, immediately go into a living death and use a few more basics, and then you can see here we use resonance for this big tail slam, and that should be able to heal you to full every single time, even if your HP is pretty low. And then you can see here we just use a few more abilities. We use our Death Skulls, and the Death Skulls will bounce to all of these little skeletons and pretty much kill them all. Occasionally one of them might survive because it gets pushed back or something, but you'll see here we do cast another Death Skulls, and this should kill at least 2 of these skeletons, so that when they explode you only get hit by 1 of them. You can see there we took 1 2500 damage hit, but that's really nothing to worry about too much. And then as you can see, we just continue to DPS here, and then Osseous pulls us in, and this is where we stand for the rest of this encounter here, basically. And as you can see, Osseous dies there right away. and then all of the loot piles up right underneath your feet here, and you just loot it and use your note paper on the bones, and that's pretty much it. And that's what a standard kill will look like. It's a very, very straightforward method, as you can see, and then you can see the conjures despawn there by the time Osseous respawns, so you should be pretty good to just sit here and fully AFK from here on out. As you can see, a pretty consistent method. It gets really fast kills. This gets anywhere from, I would say, if you have like tank gear maybe and tier 90s, you probably get like 31 kills per hour. But if you have tier 95s and full DPS gear, you could probably get up to 34, maybe even 35 kills per hour fully AFK. You don't have to do any sort of pre-casting or anything like that. And it seems to have 100% consistency with this method from what I found. As long as you're Excaliburing, if you see your HP is like really low at the end of a kill, you should have pretty much 100% consistency. Like I said in the preset section, the way that this action bar is designed, even if you get a relentless proc on your living death, you should still be fine to do pretty much the exact same rotation. So it is a very, very consistent method, and it gets really fast kills, honestly. So I think this is a great method for pretty much everybody to be using if you want to AFK this boss out, because yeah, I don't really know why you'd want to try at a boss like this, so it's definitely worth AFKing it out, as you can see, and get pretty decent kill times. Alright guys, so now you can see I have my Death Warden gear on. Forget about the or the first Necromancer robe top. I don't have a Death Warden perked out on this account, I guess, but yeah, you can see we just have Death Warden equipped here and the tier 90 weapons, and you can see the action bar on screen here. This bar seems to work a little bit better with tier 90s if you're using like Death Warden and you really have like low level gear, but honestly, I would only use this method over the Death Skulls method if you don't have a Zuck cape or you don't have conservation of energy. I think even with tier 90s and like Death Warden and stuff, you're still better off using the Death Skulls method with tier 90s even. But let's just join this instance here and I'll show you what a kill like this looks like, because it's pretty similar, all things considered. We're just using the Scythe to kill the little ads instead of the Death Skulls. So this is what a kill like this will look like. We pretty much just do the same thing here. We just enter the instance, make sure all of our stuff is turned on. And yeah, this is what the kill will look like. Right off the bat, we will just conjure all of our little guys, and then we will use a few like Scythe casts here. You know, use all of the conjure abilities and stuff. And we just go through a few basic attacks and stuff here before we use the resonance. So you can see here, we use resonance here, and we block the tail slime like that. And then we pretty much just sit here and revo this thing down like you see. And eventually the Scythe will kill all of these little dinosaurs here. Usually it happens after he like stuns you, and then the dinosaurs come back in, and then you will Scythe them. So you can see here that dinosaurs run back in, and then we'll use the Scythe here, and it will kill them all just like this. And as you can see, it easily clears all of the little baby dinosaurs except for this one, which has 8 HP, I guess, which is unlucky. But yeah, as you can see, it pretty much kills all of the dinosaurs very easily. And again, much like the other method, it is very similar. It's just a little bit slower. I find that this method works a lot better if you're using the tier 95 offhand, at least, because you do get a lot of soul stacks with this method, and that obviously helps you out quite a bit at dealing a lot of damage with your volley of souls. And when you're only getting like 3 volley of soul hits instead of the 5, it does kind of hinder you quite a bit, especially since you can see we're wasting a lot of soul saps here that don't actually build us a stack. But yeah, as you can see, this kill is incredibly slow with tier 90s and Death Warden. You can see he respawned the baby dinosaurs just like that, and yeah, it's just not super good in my opinion to be doing this unless you absolutely have to, because this is like, I don't know what, like 30 seconds longer of a kill or something like that. I mean, I know the gear is way lower, but it's significantly slower. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys use this method to be getting some very easy Osseous kills and getting your log completed. This method is pretty decent in my opinion. It gets relatively decent kill times, and I think it is definitely worth doing if you're going to be killing this boss. Probably not worth actually trying at this boss in my opinion, but that's just what I think. But if you guys made it this far in the video, definitely drop a like on it. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.